I mean, you know, in the news now, you know, with these parties that the government, the people in charge were breaking the rules, having these parties in their lovely gardens. I think I've been naive all my life. It's not till now I just go, why do we trust them? Of course we shouldn't trust the people in charge. That's how they're in charge. They shouldn't be trusted.
What do you get when fearless Britishwood collides with blunt, no-nonsense truth, and a politician struggling to keep his footing? Ricky J lit up the stage and put Starmer under a spotlight so bright it felt like midsummer fireworks, only there was nothing celebratory about it. With precision timing and relentless punchlines, he didn't pause, didn't soften, and didn't let the pressure drop for a single second. Every line landed clean and heavy, turning the moment into a showcase of sharp commentary wrapped in cutting humor. Meanwhile, Starmer looked caught off guard, blinking as if he'd walked into a high-level debate without a script or a strategy. The contrast was impossible to ignore, one man commanding the room, the other trying to steady himself under the glare. Brace yourself, this wasn't a typical political exchange. It was a masterclass in controlled chaos, and the temperature on that stage rose fast.
First thing is, as well, apart from the pandemic and the devastation and the deaths and the strain on the health service and people losing their livelihoods and that, the worst thing is the in charge do what they want. And you know what, I can you know, I see all these people saying
Starmer's the kind of guy who walks into a pub quiz and somehow turns "What's the capital of France?" into a 10-minute lecture that still misses the point. He's like autocorrect if it gained confidence and decided to run for prime minister, rigid, slightly uncomfortable, and absolutely certain even when he's off target. And it doesn't improve from there. This isn't ordinary political underperformance, this is refined, rehearsed, suit anti-mediocrity wrapped in credentials and delivered with all the warmth of dry toast left too long on the counter.
When are we going to stop taking went to Eton as a qualification to run the country? I mean, now.
While the world feels like it's tilting off its axis, Starmer seems locked into a strategy of triangulating so intensely he might as well redraw himself as a diagram. One minute he hints at bold reform, the next he's quietly assuring financial elites that nothing disruptive is on the horizon. Its politics served tepid, carefully balanced so markets stay calm and headlines don't explode. He campaigns with the energy of someone mildly apologizing for taking up space, then governs as if complex national struggles can be neatly resolved with a tidy spreadsheet and a steady tone.
Starmer's premiership is now at 13% approval rating, the lowest approval rating of any prime minister in record.
Ricky Gervais, a man who's built an empire on puncturing inflated egos, took one glance at Starmer and saw ready-made material. This wasn't rivalry, it felt like public service. If Starmer had a dating profile, Gervais would swipe past in a heartbeat and still find a way to turn the bio into a punchline. He comes across like the kind of politician who'd spend half a year drafting an intricate 10-point master plan to reconnect with voters, only to lose them all by repeating the words so many times it stops meaning anything.
Oh dear. It really went wrong for Keir Starmer this week after he addressed workers at a factory and mentioned Nigel Farage some 16 times.
And I'm speaking out today in relation to Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage, Nigel Farage, Nigel Farage, Farage, Nigel 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 Farage.
Embarrassing! Things went from bad to worse. The press, who have historically given him a free ride, which is, I believe, part of the reason why we are where we are.
And then there's the energy. Ricky Gervais carries more spark in a single raised eyebrow than Starmer projects in an entire press conference. Where Ricky commands attention with effortless presence, Starmer's version of intensity feels like a double blink and a carefully rehearsed pause. If charisma were electricity, Ricky could power a city block, Starmer might struggle to keep a desk lamp glowing. When he steps into a room, the atmosphere doesn't lift, it tightens, like someone arrived at a celebration carrying a quarterly report instead of a toast.
Trade Britain's fishermen. He sold them out to the European Union. He's concluded a Swiss-style agreement with the European Union, which effectively, by one man, by the fiat of one prime minister, has reversed the decision of 17.4 million people in the Brexit referendum in 2016.
You'd expect someone leading the opposition to actually oppose something, yet Starmer treats confrontation like it requires protective gloves. He approaches government policy with delicate caution, as if one wrong move might trigger a headline he can't control. Watching him push back is like watching a mime debate a brick wall, careful, muted, and strangely apologetic. And Gervais senses that hesitation instantly. He doesn't need to shout or swing wildly. A faint grin and a raised eyebrow are enough to let Starmer tie himself in knots. Gervais doesn't even attack, he simply describes, and that alone does the damage. Starmer has perfected the art of sounding committed without ever sounding firm, as if strong conviction might cause an allergic reaction. He promises transformation and delivers paperwork, which, in a baffling way, is almost a skill. His campaigns read like the fine print on a new phone update, lengthy, cautious, and forgotten the moment you scroll past.
Second largest city. That's not control, it's chaos.
I think the bigger you are, the more you can say what you want. I think we're coming out of it now, but there's been a good few years of ordinary people not being able to say what they want. And some, actors and comedians and artists get in trouble, but I suppose I'm at the stage where I can ignore it and still do and say what I want. So that's good. I mean, free speech is amazing anyway, isn't it? But to have such a platform.
He might be the first politician to unveil a manifesto that feels like it's printed in vanishing ink. Blink and the bold pledges have quietly dissolved. One week he sounds firmly committed to sweeping reform, the next, that certainty fades faster than yesterday's headlines. Ask him for a straight answer, and you can almost hear the hum of polling data recalculating mid-sentence. It's like calling customer support and being routed through endless departments, only to learn the original promise has been updated to reflect new priorities. He's the political equivalent of a loading screen, always processing, never quite delivering. The entire brand seems built on the belief that spreadsheets, neutral suits, and carefully measured tones are enough to pave a smooth road to power. And when Gervais begins to circle, it stops feeling like satire and starts resembling a case study, analyzing a figure so relentlessly cautious that even plain porridge suddenly looks exciting by comparison.
Moving to war-fighting readiness as the central purpose of our armed forces. When we are being directly threatened by states with advanced military forces, the most effective way to deter them is to be ready. And frankly, to show them that we're ready. To deliver peace through strength. Every part of society, every citizen of this country has a role to play.
You know things have drifted into absurd territory when Ricky Gervais, the guy famous for roasting award-winning elites, ends up voicing the frustration the official opposition won't. Not because he's chasing headlines, but because someone has to cut through the fog while Starmer hesitates like a frozen screen. While rivals make bold, headline-grabbing moves, he's in another strategy session debating whether a firm stance might unsettle a focus group. His idea of a counterpunch often sounds like a carefully padded memo about consultations and evidence reviews, measured, polished, and utterly bloodless. Gervais doesn't rant, he dissects. What looks like comedy starts to feel like a clean audit of leadership that never quite arrives. When the promised alternative to chaos feels this colorless, satire stops being a sideshow and starts resembling a civic duty, and Gervais delivers it with sharp, surgical timing.
Endure it as a ginger. So I've got one up there. I've seen firsthand the difference that makes, and so has Keir. We grew up in different ends of the country and at different times. Not too different. But we endured the same insecurities and hardship that so many working people face. I guess the one difference is, though, I had to endure it as a ginger. So I've got one up.
Ricky Gervais doesn't just highlight the absurdity, he amplifies it with a knowing grin. He studies Starmer's entire political presence like a case file, and keeps arriving at the same conclusion: polished exterior, missing core. No ignition, no gravitational pull, just a crisply tailored void. Trying to detect genuine emotion feels like attempting to stream a movie through a root vegetable. Technically something's happening, but you're left wondering why you tried. Ask for a clear feeling, and you half expect a formal review process before a carefully neutral response is issued. He's mastered the craft of delivering extended statements that somehow say nothing at all, each line sounding like it was assembled by an overly cautious public sector algorithm. In trying so hard not to provoke anyone, he's managed to frustrate everyone. The left questions his conviction, the right doubts his strength, and the mythical center watches as if he's a placeholder awaiting someone with actual momentum.
What's his name? Keir Starmer, sir. That bastard excused Jimmy Savile. He's the one who signed off and said there wasn't enough evidence. That bastard is going to be the prime minister. So a guy who literally, who signed off and said not enough evidence of the man what we now know, Sir Jimmy Savile, who 500 while being greeted by the Queen and, BBC covering. Keir Starmer, is this acceptable? I'll tell you what, I'd rather die in the fight than bow to that.
Starmer could hold a press conference in a hurricane and somehow exude less energy than the wind itself. Every signal, every outfit, every message drenched in beige monotony. Swap him for a laminated chart, and few would bat an eye. Voters don't line up for a walking spreadsheet unless they've abandoned any hope of taste, ambition, or human connection. That's when Ricky Gervais steps in, grinning at the absurdity. Remember when leadership meant bold ideas, daring moves, and occasionally taking a stand? Starmer's approach is a community notice board, safe, laminated, and largely ignored. He navigates decisions like they're radioactive, circling endlessly before finally delivering a stance with the enthusiasm of someone realizing they forgot to staple their report.
Was one of the worst prime ministers we've ever had, and he's only been with us 81 days. But look what he's done in those 81 days. He's allowed the Chancellor to go ahead with a scheme where 4,000 pensioners could freeze to death this winter, and those are Labour figures, by the way, not Tory figures, OK. He's introduced a raft of policies like energy, which could make us dependent on overseas energy ad infinitum, so dictators around the world will control what we have in this country. Never mind the sleaze. I mean, goodness gracious, he stood up in the Commons once, looked across the box at Boris Johnson and said, sleaze, sleaze.
And when Ricky Gervais turns his spotlight on this human embodiment of beige, it's not cruelty, it's civic duty. Picture sitting on a plane that's on fire while the pilot calmly reads a policy brief on improved air filtration. Wouldn't you want someone to yell, "Does he know we're falling?" That's Ricky, cutting through the pretense, the calm facade, the staged normalcy while the engines literally, or metaphorically, fall apart. Yet the bleakest part of the Starmer story is his relentless, but timid, ambition, not to lead, inspire, or transform, but simply to be seen as competent. His ultimate goal appears to be adequate, in a broadsheet review, and even that keeps slipping from his grasp. He misses every open opportunity like it's a rehearsed gag. This is a man capable of confronting a government in crisis, ministers resigning like deck chairs on a sinking ship, yet his grand performance is a careful tweet. Questions arise. Serious questions. The house is ablaze, and he's checking the smoke detector. It's almost an art how someone can radiate so little urgency.